Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Courtney Morris and I cook historical recipes that I find lying around my house in my old cookbooks. Today we are going to be tackling the Victoria sponge sandwich. Okay, so the Victoria sponge meaning cake. Basically, we've all had a type of sponge. If you've ever had cake, that bread part of the cake is sponge. And we are going to delve into the ever popular Victoria sponge. Now, I did some research on this when I was looking up recipes that would be suitable for spring. Apparently, I can't find anything that anybody made on May Day particularly. So I decided on some springtime recipes, and this sounded like it would fit the bill pretty well. This type of cake, they have record of going back to about the 1600s, and it wasn't called Victoria sponge until Queen Victoria decided to enjoy it and let the world know that she liked it, and then it was called Victoria sponge after her. In this case, I've seen recipes for Victoria sponge as in cake form, and I've also seen Victoria sponge as in these little singer sandwiches, and I think that's what we're going to do today. I found a recipe in Mrs. Beeton's book of household management for Victoria sandwiches, which is the exact same thing, just cut differently. So I am hoping this works out. So I have a lot of years of baking under my belt, and as I am a very messy baker still, I went ahead and made a photocopy of the recipe so I didn't get my book all dirty. And as I'm going through this, it's calling for not a lot of flour, castor sugar, butter, eggs, baking powder, a little milk, jam, and salt. Again, very simple ingredients. And I have this problem when I think of the Victorian times or even the Edwardian times. When it comes to baking, I think of really dry things with not a lot of flavor, not a lot of sweetness, just maybe they didn't know any better and they thought it tasted good, but I know I need to overcome that because there's plenty of accounts where they are saying they had the most delightful dessert at somebody's party, or they had a really, really good meal somewhere else, and I have to overcome that because the world didn't exist in black and white until color TV came in, I know. But anyways, back to the baking stuff. So going through this, it's telling me to mix it like a cake batter. But then the interesting part about it is they're asking you to make meringue and fold it in to your cake batter. Now that's very similar, that's exactly what I do for my angel food cakes, and it gives a cake, especially with a very small amount of flour. This is only asking for 3/4 of a cup of flour. It gives it a really almost marshmallowy texture. It's quite light and bouncy if you don't break up the egg yolks or the egg whites too much. So I kind of have some high hopes for this. That actually sounds pretty good, and we're matching almost matching the amount of flour to sugar, which means this is going to be kind of sweet. So when I break this down, what I thought in my head initially of, oh, this might not be very good, or it might be dry, I'm actually thinking that sugar is going to caramelize a little bit, and those egg whites are going to make it nice and light and airy. So I have high hopes for this, and I'm actually really excited about this. Now it does say to pour it into a well-buttered Yorkshire pudding tin, and I know what Yorkshire pudding tins is, or Yorkshire puddings as the little muffin thingies you get on the side of like a Sunday roast dinner. But after some research, Yorkshire pudding also came in a 9x13 pan, just a sheet pan that you would cut and serve. Who knew, right? So I am going to do this in a 9x13 pan, and only because these are the sandwiches. So you have to bake it flat and then cut it in half, put your jam in the middle, and then cut it into the fingers that it says. And then it also says at the bottom, it says sufficient for one large dish. So that was my other clue. Okay, well I'm excited about this because if this works out really well, I have another dessert to serve with afternoon tea, and I'll be really excited about that. So let's get to the mixer and see what we can do with it. For this recipe, you'll need 4 ounces or a half a cup of castor sugar, or regular sugar if you're American, 3 eggs, the whites separated from the yolks, You want to mix the yolks with the sugar until it's that nice creamy yellow paste that you always get when you bake. It's absolutely lovely. And we'll use the egg whites a little later. Then you'll need 2 ounces of melted butter, and of course I put it on the wrong side of the mixer so you couldn't see it, but I'm still working on camera angles. I am still pretty new to this, so hopefully it gets better with time. Then you're going to sift in 6 ounces, or about 3/4 cups of flour, 1 teaspoonful of baking powder, and a generous pinch of salt, which is about a quarter teaspoon. Sift that into your batter, and then mix it until it's fully incorporated. I must apologize for my autofocus as well. I also am still learning to use the video settings on my camera, and autofocus is not the way to go apparently. The recipe then says to add the milk by degrees until the mixture drops readily from the spoon. So basically add enough milk to make it look like a cake batter. In a separate bowl, put your egg whites in and whisk it until stiff peaks. I lost all the footage of mine becoming stiff peaks and incorporating it into the batter. Please fold it in, do not stir it, or you're going to lose any and all bubbles. It says to pour the batter into a well-buttered Yorkshire pudding tin. In my case, I used a 9x13 glass pan because that's what I had, and I would also suggest maybe using parchment paper instead of butter. I just have never had very good luck with butter and ended up having to scrape out the bottom of my cakes. Then put it in a moderately hot oven, which is about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what Celsius is, you'll have to do the math. And wait 20 minutes until it bakes. Once it's cool, take it out of the pan, split it in half, and spread jelly on one side. I'm using a blackberry Marion berry, and it should be pretty good. It kind of reminds me of a giant peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Then cut it into sections like you were going to make little tiny tea sandwiches. And I did cut the ends off just because I know that was kind of a thing back then. Sprinkle powdered sugar on. And then I decorated it with some strawberries and blueberries to see if it would make it look a little more festive, and I think it turned out all right. Okay, we've got our Victoria's sponge sandwiches out of the oven, put together, cut up, and hopefully on a plate that's presentable for that period of time. I am so excited to try these. These look fantastic, like something a modern day cookbook would have. And it was such simple ingredients, like there was no fuss. I mean, the biggest fuss was making, meringue, woohoo. But I love being surprised, I think, because it is one notch off of me, realizing that not everything before 1940 was in black and white. Whatever. But these look so good. We're gonna try some. Oh, they're squishy. They are so squishy and light. They don't smell that sweet though. Like, it almost just smells like a bread, like white bread. It smells like peanut butter and jelly a little bit. So let's try some. Those are really good. Oh, my hopes have been exceeded on that. It's definitely an eggy sponge, but there were 3 eggs in it for the amount of flour, and that would make sense. You would taste a little more egg in that. But they are light and squishy. I think I could have used a little more jam in there. Next time I think I'd use strawberry. I think I used a Marion boysenberry, but they're not too sweet. That's the other thing. I think we're so used to having desserts in this day and age be so overly saturated with sweetness that anytime a dessert like this comes up, it's kind of bland. But I mean, really, that's not bad. And honestly, I've been off sugar for 2 weeks, and so this is the first sugar I have had in 2 weeks, so this actually does taste pretty sweet to me. But for a tea sandwich, my goodness, I'm very happy with this. I think this would be a great summer addition, and I also think it would be really nice with some whipped cream on the top if you were to make it into cake form. But other than that, I need to have a cup of tea. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. But I'm really, really excited about this. Here, do you want to try some?
Sure.
Here, let my cameraman try some. What do you think?
It's almost sandwich bread.
Almost, but it's like sweet sandwich bread.
It tastes more a little lemony.
Okay. I don't know how that is, but okay. Well, Mrs. Beeton, you did it again. This is fantastic. Okay. Well, happy spring, everybody.